I want to put this question to you, Senator, just to put this to rest. Can you say definitively here and now that Donald Trump did lose the 2020 election?
Kristen, Joe Biden was elected president in 2020. It was an unfair election in many ways. I mean, you had states that were changing their election practices or election laws, sometimes in violation of their constitution. You had networks combining with big tech to suppress what we now know to be a truthful story about Hunter Biden's laptop and the evidence that it exposed about Biden family corruption.
That's Republican Senator Tom Cotton flipping the script on NBC host and Democrat shill Kristen Welker after she asked about the results of the 2020 election for the millionth time. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and if you're unfortunate enough to have had exposure to establishment media in the last 4 years, you'll notice that all of their interviews follow a general pattern of softball questions and praise for Democrats and loaded questions about out-of-context comments Trump made, followed by humiliation rituals for Republicans. Here's Welker asking Cotton the media's favorite gotcha question for conservatives.
So obviously Joe Biden was elected president. We know that in part because...
But did Trump lose?
Joe Biden was elected, Kristen. There's a process by which we elect presidents. There's votes in November. You have an electoral college vote. You certify the election, and then you have the inauguration. Joe Biden was elected president. Everything has gone to hell in a handbasket as a result of it.
As you know, though, I mean, it has been stated that this was one of the most secure elections in U.S. history. But do you just not want to say that Trump lost? Why not just say the simple...
Kristen,
if Biden is president, can you just simply say Trump lost?
Joe Biden was elected president in 2020. That's why we have runaway inflation. That's why we have more than 10 million illegals in this country. And to go back to the point about the 2020 election, it was very irregular. You had networks, to include this networks, conspiring with big tech to suppress evidence of Biden family corruption. You had Democratic states and cities like Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia, changing their election practices on the fly. That's one reason why President Trump and the Republican National Committee is so focused on election integrity in this election, to make sure that Democrats aren't doing things like they're trying to do in Pennsylvania, counting absentee and mail-in ballots that don't have dates or that have the wrong date.
And there's no proof that that happened. And again, just to be clear, as I said initially, Trump did take his case to court more than 60 times, didn't win those cases. Let me move on and ask you about January 6th.
You know, I really want to highlight the double standard at play here and the pathetic shame tactics that the media regularly employs. This obsession they have with Trump verbally conceding is a humiliation ritual because they know how proud Trump is. All other legal conditions were met. Biden's in the White House now. Trump didn't break any laws, but because he didn't do an empty formality, they think that it's a gotcha. I mean, Hillary Clinton technically conceded in 2016 and then went on to incessantly call Trump illegitimate and suggested that he only got in office due to Russian interference. So what exactly was the point of the concession if it doesn't mean anything? And as far as it being the most secure election in American history, it's not unreasonable to be concerned when you add new technology such as electronic voting machines and massive mail-in ballots. If you don't believe me, just ask Democrats.
Virginia just stopped using touchscreen computer voting because it's so vulnerable.
Right.
We need to look at all the voting machines. Every Secretary of State needs to be, assisted in making sure that they are not being hacked and attacked.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
Researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling this.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risk.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws, including backdoor.
Just to be clear, this isn't meant to relitigate the last election or anything like that. I'm only trying to highlight that if Trump wins in 2024, and I think there's a good chance that he will, you can bet money on the fact that these same people who've been clutching their pearls about calls for election integrity will immediately do a 180 and undermine every single mechanism that they've been telling us is foolproof and incorruptible. I mean, they're already priming the pump with stories about Russiagate 2.0, so if they lose after the election, they can reboot the 2016 hysteria all over again. But let me know what you think. Why the sudden change of heart from Democrats about voting? Is it merely due to them being in the White House, or are things actually more secure than they were 10 years ago? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye!